returned. Mr. Durst is present with Mr. DeGuerin and Mr. Chesnoff. Mr. Billion, Lewin, Milius, Henderson, and Miata present. Our readers have returned. Let's return to our transcript.
Well, do you know how long you sat on your bed?
Well, I know from the various reports, but I don't know from remembering how long I sat on the bed.
Well, you read some report that indicates when you awoke from whatever you awoke from.
I have read the D and Enriquez's. The lady says that she heard me slamming the door of my apartment around 8:30 or 9:30.
So you had to come up with something to meet her statement, right?
I'm sorry I'm laughing. That is what happened.
How you slamming your door, right?
Yes, sir.
And you were standing outside your door, weren't you?
I don't know about caught me, but she saw me. I was slamming the door from the inside, not the outside.
So her testimony that you were outside the door slamming, it was incorrect? Do you remember when she demonstrated?
Yeah, I do remember when she demonstrated, but what I recall is hearing her, and I stepped outside and looked up the stairs and waved at her. I don't know that I did it the way she did it, but I waved at her and acknowledged her in some way.
I think you said last week that you waved and said hi.
Maybe I said hi.
You just killed this man in your apartment, and you look up and you wave and you say hi.
I did not kill Morris Black. I did what I did. Either I waved and said hi, or I just waved.
And your explanation for the door slamming was the humidity?
No, my explanation for the door slamming is that for some reason I was slamming the door. The door always stuck. The humidity or not humidity. And you had to close it, rather, you had to either slam it or force it shut for the latch to stay from the doorknob. But I believe that morning I was just slamming the door.
Well, last week you said the explanation was the humidity. That's incorrect?
No, that is correct. The humidity would not make it worse, but the door was difficult to shut from the beginning.
Well, we have seen that you claim to be a botanist. Are you a meteorologist too?
No, I'm not a meteorologist, and I'm not a botanist.
Well, how much did the humidity go up between 6:15 and sometime after 8 o'clock?
Say that again?
You opened the door at 6:15 a.m. with no problems, right?
Yes.
It wasn't jammed at 6:15 in the morning when you walked in, was it?
It's the shutting that was difficult.
Well, then are you telling us you shut the door after you walked in or not?
I should shut the door after I walked in.
It didn't jam then?
It didn't shut all the way.
Oh, you went back and checked the door before the shooting happened?
No.
Well, how do you know that, Mr. Durst?
Because it would never shut all the way unless you took the doorknob and pulled it up and shut it.
That's your testimony today?
That was my testimony last week, too.
Is it just coincidence that after Mrs. Henriquez saw you, the door shut just perfectly?
After Mrs. Enriquez saw me, I did the right thing to make the door stay shut.
So her testimony that the slamming was going on and on and on and on, you are saying she's just misspeaking?
No, I did not say that at all. I believe that probably when she was... Yes, I don't doubt that I was doing that.
You heard her say it was rattling the iron things on her window upstairs when you were doing this, did you not?
I heard her say that, yes, sir.
Well, did you have blood on your clothes or not, Mr. Durst?
I don't believe I had blood on my clothes, no, sir.
Where did you have blood after Morris Black was shot?
I don't know that I had any blood on me after he was shot.
You don't remember any blood being on your face?
I do remember blood being on my face.
And you think that came from where?
I think that came from when I shook him and tried to get him. When I came back and shook him, and put my hand over his nose and over his mouth to see if he was breathing. And then I put my head down in my hands while I was sitting on the bed. That's where I think it came from, but it could have come from someplace else.
You recall the testimony of Mr. Bevel, the blood spatter expert?
Yes, sir. I mean, sort of. Sort of. I recall that Mr. Bevel testified.
You remember him talking about the blood splatter, how it's a high velocity impact type of spatter, things like that?
Yes, sir.
In fact, there was blood spatter on the wall, wasn't there?
I am told that.
And can you tell us again how close you were to Morris when you fell and you hit the floor and the gun went off?
I was right next to him.
Right next to him?
Yes, sir.
It's your testimony you didn't have any blood from blowback on you. Blowback from the injury?
No, that's not my testimony. My testimony, I don't think I did.
Okay, may I approach? The court says yes. At the table, when you exited the bathroom, as I recall, exited the stove area, you walked up to him and you say he rises from the table. Is that correct?
I didn't walk up to him. I pretty much lunged toward him.
Okay, let me get this right. You are down here at the stove on all fours.
Yes, sir.
Where's the gun, Morris? Where's the gun? Is that your question to him when you don't find it?
Well, he is over there. Where's the gun? Where's the gun?
And you turn around, do you lunge at him from here or do you walk to him?
Well, I turned around the other way because you were doing it sort of backwards over here.
He is over here somewhere.
Well, yeah.
Do you lunge to him or do you walk to him?
Well, I would have turned the other way.
Now you lunge to him or you walk to him?
I take whatever number of steps it takes to get there, but it was a lunge.
Okay, and he's getting up from the table?
His left hand is lifting the yellow jacket from the table.
His left hand is lifting the jacket,
His right hand is grabbing the gun that was under the jacket.
and at some point, he turns and spins in the chair and faces you?
No, he started out facing me with the chair swiveled.
Okay.
Swiveled a little bit back in order to get the jacket lifted with his left hand and the right hand to grab the gun.
It's in his right hand. At what point do you grab the barrel in his hand? You said you grabbed the barrel and his hand?
Yes, as he was rising and moving the pistol toward me.
You grab that with your right hand or your left hand?
My right hand.
Does the gun ever get above his shoulder height?
No, sir.
Okay, in which direction does the gun go once you have your hands on it?
It was between our faces.
Okay, and which hand is on the barrel?
My right hand.
Before it starts turning, right?
My right hand is on the barrel.
Before he starts turning the gun this way?
My right hand is on the barrel and I'm pushing the gun up and away.
Okay, you are holding his hand and his barrel. Is your right hand on this side of the gun or your right hand on this side of the gun?
My right hand is on this side.
Underneath the gun?
No, on top of the gun.
On top of the gun?
Yeah.
Okay, when you are falling, does your right hand stay on the gun or not?
Yes, sir.
In your testimony or your recollection is what happened with the gun? Which direction does it go from here as you fall to the ground?
It pretty much stays there, but you are facing me. You are looking at me.
Okay, and we fall with the gun just like this?
Well, we fall, and I'm pulling the gun toward me, and you're trying to take the gun away. You're looking at me and not giving me the gun.
You're pulling the gun towards you?
I'm trying to pull the gun away from you.
Up and away?
Up and away.
By the time we hit the ground, are you still this close to me?
I think so, yes. I hit the ground a little bit first on my elbow, so I'm not sure we're quite that close. Something like that, yeah.
At some point, this gun has to turn and face me, does it not?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember the DPS analyst that testified about testing the weapon for blood and tissue and things like that, that 22?
I don't remember that specific testimony.
Do you recall him testifying that he found no blood or any indication of tissue or anything like that on that weapon?
I don't remember. If you say that's what he said, that's fine. I don't dispute it.
You don't dispute it.
Of course not.
So how did you get the blood off the weapon, Mr. Durst?
How did I get the blood off the weapon?
Right.
I didn't get the blood off the weapon.
Well, you heard it had no blood on it, correct?
Well, you're telling me that's what it said, so that's what it said.
You heard that the casing had no blood on it, correct?
The casing?
The casing that ejected at the time that the bullet...
Oh, the shell. If that's what he said, then that's what he said.
It's your testimony that you didn't clean the blood off the weapon or the casing?
No, sir.
Is it your testimony that you put the gun and the casing in the trash can with blood all over it?
No, I thought I'd put the gun in the garbage bags I threw in the water. I had no idea I'd put it in the trash can until, of course, I got an opportunity to read your reports.
And you have read all of our reports, haven't you?
I don't know if I read it. I'm told that we didn't get all of them, but I read the ones that were given to me.
You have said today, and I believe you said last week, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's definitely a pool of blood around Morris Black's head, right?
A puddle, pool, yes, sir.
Taking you back to when you come, how should I describe this? When you awaken from wherever you were or come back to reality at some point, what's a good word for you?
I'm forced to admit I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you said that you put your head in your hands at your bedside and you awoke or something and found the TV on and the door open, correct?
I think I said I got up.
You got up?
Witness nods head up and down.
Okay, you saw the pool of blood around Morris's head?
Yes, sir.
And you decided you were going to get a drop cloth, right? You're going to wrap him up?
No, sir.
That's not what you said last week?
No, sir. I hope not. But I don't believe that's what I said.
Well, why did you go get the drop cloth from Chalmers?
I eventually decided I was going to make it appear that Morris Black had moved out of my apartment. Had moved out of his apartment.
Well, you testified that I think I am correct. You can correct me if I am wrong. That you were going to wrap him up in the drop cloth. And you did that, right?
I did wrap him up in a drop cloth. I don't think I figured out that that's what I was going to have to do until the next day.
So going on the 28th and buying a drop cloth from Chalmers is something you have no recollection of?
I remember deciding that I could not go to the police because they wouldn't believe me, and I was going to have to go and make it appear that Morris Black had moved. I don't remember specifically being in Chalmers, though.
Well, I don't think I heard an answer to my question. On Friday the 28th, you don't recall going to Chalmers and buying a drop cloth, yes or no?
No.
You don't?
No.
But you do remember going on the next day. Is that your testimony? Is that what you just said?
I do remember going to Chalmers on the 29th, Saturday, late afternoon, yes, sir.
Do you remember buying the 4-inch paring knife?
Yes, sir.
And what were you going to use that knife for?
I don't specifically remember buying it, but I remember going to get a drop cloth and garbage bags, and I bought the paring knife to cut the drop cloth up with.
What were you using to cut Morris Black with?
I used the tools I'd found in his apartment, 2 saws and an axe.
2 saws and an axe.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and are we talking about an axe with a long handle, or are you talking about a hatchet kind of thing with a short handle?
A big axe.
A big axe. And you were doing that chopping on the 28th or the 29th?
On the 29th.
So there was no cut up at all going on the 28th, is that right?
That's correct.
You just wrapped him up and left him in the tarp?
No, I just...
Drop cloth?
I threw the drop cloth over Morris Black's body.
And you let the blood stay there, and you were going to take care of that the next day, is that right?
I just threw the drop cloth over Morris Black's body.
Well, let me ask it then, this way. You didn't make any attempts to clean up the blood at that time then. You just covered him with the drop cloth, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did you try rolling him up before you left the apartment on the 28th in that drop cloth? Or you just covered him, that's all?
All I did was cover him.
And when do you come back then to the apartment?
I did not come back until... Are we talking about the 28th?
I'm sorry, yes, sir, on the 28th. After you have covered Morris Black with the drop cloth and left your apartment, do you come back at all?
I did not go back until next morning.
And what action did you take after you covered Morris Black with the drop cloth and left your apartment? Where did you immediately go?
I went back to the temple and got the car.
And from there you went to Walmart?
Yes, sir.
And after? Okay, and after you left Walmart?
I went to the San Luis Hotel.
Is it your recollection that you don't remember when you made that haircut appointment?
I don't remember when I made the appointment.
But you think it was made ahead of time and wasn't just you going down there on the 28th?
It was definitely made ahead of time.
Do you have any idea how far in advance?
No. It had to be that week.
So you didn't get your haircut and trim for the wedding the week before?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe I did get my hair trimmed for the wedding. I just don't remember. I don't know.
You went over there in your jogging clothes, is that correct? Little warm-up pants and things?
I went over there in shorts, running shorts, and what I call a workout shirt. Kind of a thick t-shirt, but it's got long sleeves.
Did you take time to shower up in your apartment and change clothes before you walked back to the car?
No, sir.
So if you went straight from the temple to Walmart, how did you end up in those khaki slacks and the white t-shirt and stuff? Belt, nice shoes?
I don't remember.
You hadn't thought about that, had you, Mr. Durst?
Not until this instant.
Just a memory lapse?
I don't know. Yes, you would call it a memory lapse.
Saturday was a busy day for you then, I gather.
Yes, sir.
A lot to do when you cut up a body. I am just guessing, is that right?
Please explain lot to do.
I have no idea how long it takes. Can you tell us how long it took to cut Morris Black up?
I don't know.
Can you tell us where you started? Arms, legs, head?
I don't remember.
You don't remember.
I don't remember.
What did you start first with when you cut Morris? An axe, a paring knife, or saw?
I don't know.
Did you undress him before you started cutting him up?
I don't remember.
Do you remember when you cut the shirt the way it was cut, where only 1/4 of the shirt was left?
I don't remember.
But you remember going back and getting a 4-inch paring knife, is that right, on Saturday?
I remember late in the afternoon, I needed more drop cloths to finish cleaning up the apartment. Yes, sir.
Your knives were getting a little dull, weren't they, Mr. Durst?
I don't remember.
Well, you have heard the testimony of the medical examiner that the skin and the muscle appeared to have been cut with something a little fine-toothed, more than a saw. Do you remember that testimony?
I don't recall that testimony.
You remember using the 4-inch paring knife to cut through the muscle tissue and the skin before you got to the bone and used the heavier tools.
No.
If we showed you a picture, do you think that might refresh your recollection?
I doubt it. I've seen the pictures.
I can have those clothes on Tuesday.
You have looked at the pictures.
Yes, sir.
You saw Morris Black's head off his torso.
Yes, sir.
Did you look with great detail at the pictures that showed the sawtooth marks on the bones, each and every one of his limbs?
Not with great detail, no, sir.
Now, did you do this cut up before you had the 5th of Jack Daniels or after you had the 5th Jack Daniels?
After I had the 5th of Jack Daniels.
You drank the whole 5th and then started cutting?
Almost all the 5th, yes, sir.
How does a fifth of Jack Daniels impact you generally?
Generally, I don't drink a fifth of Jack Daniels.
How did it impact you that way as far as being able to walk over to Chalmers or cut up more slack? Did it cause you any problems?
I don't know.
You don't remember.
I don't remember, and I don't know.
Did you have to roll Morris around a little bit to cut through both sides of his legs and his arms? Did you have to flip him over a couple of times?
I don't remember.
Did you cut an arm off and then bag it, or did you cut everything and then bag everything at one time together?
I don't remember.
But you knew, well, I guess at 12:15 on Friday, you knew you had to get some garbage bags, right?
Yes, sir.
And is it your testimony that the garbage bags were the trash you were going to throw out of Morris's apartment, or for Morris's body parts that you were going to dump at Channelview?
For Morris Black's belongings, yes, sir.
Belongings, would that include arms, left arm, left leg, right leg?
When I bought the garbage bags, it was to throw out his belongings.
Where did you plan to dump Mr. Black after you rolled him up in the tarp and found out you couldn't lift him?
I didn't plan to dump him.
Well, why were you rolling him up in the tarp and then you found out he was too heavy to lift? What was your plan?
I did not have a plan.
You didn't say last week that you were going to roll him up and then you found out you couldn't lift him?
I did say that.
That was not as a result of any plan you had?
It was not as a result of any plan I had.
Is it just that you don't remember having a plan, or you didn't have a plan to dispose of the body?
I did not have a plan.
Well, did you roll him up then on the 28th or the 29th?
I rolled him up on the 29th when I got back to the apartment.
And you tried to move him to the front door, is that right?
I didn't try to move him to the front door. I couldn't lift him. I could not lift the body.
And you don't have the fifth yet, or do you have the fifth at that point?
No, sir.
Do you go get the fifth then before you come back and start cutting him?
Yes, sir.
So you made a decision, I'm going to have to cut him in half.
Yes, sir.
And that's why you went and got the fifth?
Yes, sir.
It was going to be a sobering experience for you, Mr. Durst.
I would not know how to answer that question.
Because you don't remember anything that happened after you drank the fifth, is that right?
No, I don't know what a sobering experience would be.
Well, you were drunk then all afternoon while you were cutting up more slack.
I hope so. Yes, sir.
When did you make a decision to go to Channelview and dump the body there?
When I got there.
Well, how did you know that Channelview had a pretty good place to dump a body?
It turned out not to be pretty good, but I found Channelview that night.
With the body parts or without the body parts?
With the body parts.
So were you driving around Galveston a little bit looking for a good place to dump?
Yes, sir.
Was Channelview your first stop, or maybe 2 or 3 stops down the road?
There were 7 or 8.
So you remember everywhere you went looking?
No, sir.
Or you don't remember that?
I remember where I drove. I don't remember each of the specific places I went and looked at.
Well, does your memory come back after you chopped off every piece of Morris's body? Or does it come back sometime when you are driving around looking for a place, trying to find a place to dump Morris's body?
I remember going to Chalmers to get the drop cloth and the garbage bags and paring knife. It turns out from the records to be around 4 o'clock.
When did your memory come back about what you were doing on Saturday the 29th, Mr. Durst? After you are through chopping his body, or you were driving around looking for a dump site?
I remember going to Chalmers late in the afternoon on Saturday.
I'm not really asking about Chalmers. You testified you don't remember anything going on while you were chopping up his body, right?
Yes, sir.
You have testified you remember you went to maybe 7 or 8 places before you found Chalmers, right?
No.
I'm sorry, how many places did you go to before you found Channelview? Excuse me.
Just what you said, 7 or 8.
When does that memory of what you were doing on the 29th come back into your head?
Like I said, I remember going to Chalmers at 4 o'clock on Saturday. That's about the first thing I can remember about Saturday, after going and getting the liquor.
And so you were still cutting the body at 4 o'clock on Saturday.
No, I'm cleaning up the apartment at 4 o'clock on Saturday.
But you bought a paring knife at Chalmers on Saturday, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you were not using that to cut up Morse block on Saturday?
No.
So you were finished chopping at 4 o'clock p.m. on Saturday.
Before 4 p.m. on Saturday.
Before 4 p.m. on Saturday, had you already put his individual body parts in triple bags?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember when that happened?
No, sir.
Well, tell us what time you loaded up all these parts of Morse block into the back of your car.
Sometime after 4 p.m.
And what time did you leave to find a dump site?
I left the San Luis around midnight.
So do you remember what time you left 2213 and went back to the San Luis?
No, sir.
But on the 29th, you definitely went back to the San Luis before you dumped the body.
Yes, sir.
Were you able to eat, have a drink or two that night?
I don't think so.
Why did you decide that Channelview would be the perfect spot to leave Morris Black?
You could get close to the water, get the car close to the water, and walk to the water, and nobody would see you.
Those were things, calculating things that were kind of going through your mind, weren't they? You had to make it easy for you to dump this man, right?
Well, the other places I went to, I couldn't get close to the water.
Well, you at least recognized the thought processes that you needed to be able to get close to the water and make a quick dump, so to speak.
No, it took a long time, but I had to get close to the water. Yes, sir.
Okay, you drank this fifth of Jack Daniels, you cut him up, and you remember that it took a long time to dump him?
Yes, sir.
How long did it take to dump his body parts?
Half an hour.
And that's sometime after midnight?
Yes, sir.
Last week, you indicated that you took great comfort, it appeared, in noting that those bags sank. You remember saying that?
Yes, sir.
It was very important to you that those bags sank, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
If they floated up, you had a problem, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you acknowledged that, no doubt about it.
Is that a question?
I'm sorry, maybe it wasn't. But you agree you wanted those bags to sink and not be found, right?
Yes, sir.
When you came back Sunday and you saw them floating, you panicked, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And the reality then was you were about to be discovered, weren't you, Mr. Durst?
When I saw the police there, I knew I had been discovered.
You knew that Morris Black was going to be identified, did you not?
Yes, sir.
You fully expected that, right?
Well, when I saw the police had found everything, yes, sir.
But you went there before the police, did you not? And see the bags floating?
Yes, sir.
You went there twice before the police, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And you saw bags floating.
Yes, sir.
And you knew then that you had a problem, did you not?
Yes.
Let's back up just a little bit to the pool of blood and the house at 2213K, okay? You left Morse there sitting and bleeding Friday, is that right?
Morris Black was dead when I left.
You left his body dripping blood out or something, did you not?
Left his body, yes, sir.
In a pool of blood around his head and everything?
Yes, sir.
You recall Gary Jones with the Galveston Police Department coming here and telling us how he looked for indications where the blood might have soaked through to different areas, right?
I guess.
Okay, and in fact, he found in the baseboard where you had made cuts that blood had soaked through and stained the wood, right?
Yes, I remember that.
And you remember the wall that he brought in with the baseboard at the bottom and the quarter round molding and all that stuff?
Yes, sir.
He didn't indicate he found any blood that soaked in any of that area, did he?
I don't remember his testimony in that type of detail.
On that whole section of wall, on that whole floor where Morris Black's head was within some short distance, right? The only blood he found was on the wall, right?
I'm going to take your word for that.
Okay, there's no evidence that a pool of blood had sat there and soaked into the baseboard or anything, was there?
I will take your word for that again.
When you went back twice, is it twice on Sunday you went back or 3 times total?
3 times total?
And the last time was the police, and that was in the evening, right?
Yes, sir.
You had a problem because the head was going to be discovered, didn't you, Mr. Durst?
I thought everything was going to be discovered.
Isn't it true that the head caused you the most concern, Mr. Durst?
No, sir.
You weren't concerned that Morris Black's likeness would be put in the paper and he would be discovered as having lived at 2213 Avenue K?
I was concerned that... Say that again? Can you read that one back? The last question was read back. I thought that all the garbage bags would have been found. I was surprised they found so few.
When you came back early Sunday morning, I'm talking about the wee hours of Sunday morning, sometime after midnight Saturday.
Yeah?
That's when you dumped, right?
In the wee hours Sunday morning, yes, sir.
And what was your mental condition at that time as a result of all this alcohol that you had drunk?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. I don't know what my mental condition was at that time. No, sir.
Well, you are still thinking about ways to get away from this killing, weren't you?
No, it was not a killing. I was thinking of where I had to... I was thinking of where I was thinking of finding a place in the water where I could throw the garbage bags in the suitcase. That's what I was thinking.
After you had dumped the body, we will get past that. After you dumped the body, you're still concerned with how you're going to get out of Galveston, right? Without being found?
I don't know about concern with how I'm going to get out of Galveston without being found.
Well, you heard the testimony of the Continental Airlines lady who said at 3:38 in the morning you were making a reservation to New York on a flight, didn't you?
I already had a Delta reservation.
But you were also making a Continental flight one way to New York at 3:38 in the morning on Sunday, weren't you?
I heard her testimony.
But you don't remember doing that call?
Well, I have problems with that actually happening, sir.
You don't remember changing it from first class to coach and back to first class?
I don't think I've ever changed a reservation from first class to coach in my life.
So those records and her testimony are just incorrect about your actions on the wee hours of Sunday morning?
I'm not sure if it's incorrect, but she says I telephoned her. I did not telephone her from my cell phone or from the room phone. So that would have me out wandering around someplace or other. Those type reservations are not the kind of reservations that I would make. And I had a Delta reservation for Monday morning already.
Let me ask you. You took the time to call her back on October 1st, Monday morning, and cancel it, didn't you?
I think I called Delta on October 1st.
You heard her testimony, did you not, that the Continental flight was canceled on Monday morning, October 1st?
I'm sorry, I think I could be wrong. I'm not saying this 100%. I think the phone records show I called Delta on Monday morning.
Okay. The court says let's stop now for a lunch break and resume at 1:30. A recess was taken. Mr. Bennett, you may proceed. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Durst, if you have any trouble hearing me or understanding me, please let me know, okay?
Yes, sir.
When you were speaking to the bonding company, you were asked what your address was, and you told them 3111 Wellburn in Dallas, Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that was a lie, was it not?
I had moved out of that apartment. Yes, sir.
So that was a lie.
Yes, sir.
You told the bonding company that your phone number was 214-219-2438. That was a lie, wasn't it?
No, sir. If they called that phone number, it would be forwarded to a phone of mine.
You remember hearing, scratch that, do you ever tell Troy that if he called that number, that he would hear it was disconnected because you hadn't paid the last phone bill?
I did not tell him that.
You told the bonding company also that you were a self-employed writer for the last 5 years, making $120,000 a year from writing.
That's not true.
That was a lie.
That's a lie.
You identified Deborah Charatown as your friend and not as your wife.
I had not identified her to anybody as my wife at that time.
So you lied to the bonding company about who she was to you.
Well, she is a friend.
She is also your wife.
Yes, sir.
You also told Troy McLehaney that you would... McLeaney? McLehaney. You also told Troy McLehaney that you would be at the bond hearing on October 16th, 2001, and that was a lie too, wasn't it?
I'm not sure I told him that. I did hear him testify to that, though.
So he was mistaken in his testimony in the fact that he talked to you and you had told him that you would be at the hearing?
I don't think I told him I would be at the hearing. I don't think I knew that there was a hearing.
When you bought the .22 caliber pistol from Carter's Country in August 30th of 2001, you lied about your address to them too, didn't you?
I gave them the address on my license. Yeah, I guess, yes, I said the address on my license is my address.
And that was a 3111 Welburn address, correct?
Say it again?
That was a 3111 Welburn address, right?
Yes, sir.
And the phone number that you listed on those records was even a different phone number than the one you gave the bonding company, correct?
What phone number did I list?
Let me show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 152, Carter's Country Records. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the phone number you gave them was 214-219-8214, correct?
214-219-8214.
That's the number you gave to Carter's Country, correct?
214-219-8214. That's a different number, but I believe that was a working number at that time.
You first moved into the Centrum Towers back in, 1997?
Yes, sir.
And on that application to Centrum Towers, you lied about your occupation. You said you were the owner of Robert Durst Botany. That's a lie, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
You are not a botanist, are you?
No, sir.
You also stated that you had previously worked at Pacific Lumber for 15 years, making $18,000 a month. That was a lie, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also stated that your supervisor was James Closty. That was a lie, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
In fact, he was an old high school classmate of yours, wasn't he?
Yes, sir.
In fact, you have an American Express card with the name of James Closty, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it also true that you have used your missing wife Kathy Durst's social security number with James Closty to get identification and credit card?
I don't know.
It's a possibility.
Yes, sir.
You also stated in that application that you had a PhD from UCLA. That was a lie, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also stated that your nearest relative was Julie Baumgold, who claims she was your daughter. That was a lie, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
When you came back to Galveston October 8th, 2001, you checked into the Holiday Inn as James Durst, correct? Jim.
Yes,
Durst.
sir.
And that was a lie?
Yes, sir.
At that time, you gave an address of 3124 Wilburn, Dallas, Texas. That was a lie, correct?
Yes, sir.
After you were arrested in Pennsylvania, you told the police that your marital status, that you were divorced. That was a lie, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. Well, no, wait a minute. I was divorced. I didn't tell them I'd been married again.
At best, it was a half-truth.
Yeah, okay.
You told this jury, and when you were first arrested in Pennsylvania, you lied to the store security about what your social security number was, didn't you?
Say that again?
When you were first arrested in Pennsylvania, you lied to the store security about what your social security number was, didn't you?
I don't doubt it.
You told this jury that Morse came over one day early when y'all first started meeting while you were watching Wall Street Week, and you heard a knock at the door. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes, sir.
And it's your testimony that Morris Black came over, stated that he liked to watch Wall Street Week, and asked if he could come in?
Yes, sir.
Did you find it a bit odd that the man across the hall came over at that time of the morning and just happened to watch the same show you had on TV?
No, wait a minute. It's on in the evening at 7:30.
I'm sorry, in the evening.
I find it odd, yeah.
If I understand your testimony correctly, you never called 911 on September 28th, 2001?
That's correct.
You never called the police?
Correct.
You never called for an ambulance?
Correct.
You never told the lady at the payphone that you had just been attacked in your own home and killed someone in self-defense?
No, sir.
And you never told Mrs. De Henriquez, when you were slamming the door shut over and over, that Morse Black had attacked you in your own home and you had to kill him in self-defense?
Well, he died struggling for the gun. Did not kill him. And I did not tell Mrs. De Henriquez about it, no.
So you are saying you did not kill him in self-defense?
It was self-defense and an accident. I don't think killing him goes with it.
Are you saying that you did or did not use deadly force against Morse Black?
Say that again?
Are you telling this jury that you either did or did not use deadly force to protect yourself from an immediate deadly threat that Morse Black imposed upon you?
I did not use deadly force. No, sir.
You never told the people at Chalmers that you had been just attacked in your own home by a crazy man and he was killed in an accident, did you?
That he died in an accident? No, sir. I did not tell him that.
You didn't tell the people at the First Convenience Bank at Walmart when you were buying Morris Black's rent check that you had been attacked in your own home by a crazy man and he was killed in an accident in your own home?
He died in an accident. I did not tell him that. No, sir.
You keep changing the word kill. He was killed, was he not?
I like died better.
Well, but he was killed, was he not?
I think I'm going to say killed implies like I killed him. But I didn't kill him.
I didn't ask if you killed him. I just asked he was killed, was he not?
Well, I didn't go to law school. Killed seems to me, for someone to get killed, somebody has got to kill them. And I did not kill Morris Black.
Well, someone can kill themselves, can they not?
So if I commit suicide, have I killed myself? Is that right? I have killed myself? I'll go along with that. If I commit suicide, I've killed myself. But I don't think he killed himself. I didn't kill him.
You didn't tell the lady at the spa when you were getting your hair cut on September 28th that you had been attacked in your own home and a man was killed in your house in an accident, did you?
I wish you would drop that, but I did not tell the lady that a man had died in my house.
You didn't tell the people who bring room service to your hotel room on September 28th at 2001 that you had been attacked in your apartment and someone had been killed in an accident in your own home, did you?
That someone died in an accident? I did not tell them that.
And if I understand your testimony correctly, and going back to the late 1980s, you were working for Durst organization, is that correct?
Say that again, please.
Going back to the late 1980s, you were working for the Durst organization, were you not?
Yes, sir.
When you were working there, you would get wasted every night on alcohol and marijuana. You were hung over the next day and not go to work until the afternoon, or if you went to work at all.
Oh, I frequently got there sometime in the morning, but frequently I arrived in the afternoon, and frequently I didn't go at all.
You testified that the salary was too low to make it worth continuing to work at the Durst organization.
No. The salary was always a very small part of the income relative to the rest of the income. But I didn't quit because the salary was too low.
Well, the salary wasn't sufficient enough for you to want to continue to work, was it?
Salary had nothing to do with it.
What was the salary that you were drawing?
In late 80s?
Yes, sir.
I have no idea.
Also during your direct, you talked about all the places that you went after you quit work on your passport. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
So you are familiar with traveling through the airports of the United States, correct?
Yes, sir.
And during those times you did not have when you made those trips, you did not have an outstanding murder warrant for you, did you?
No, sir.
And you didn't have the outstanding bond jumping warrant for your arrest, did you?
No, sir.
You had also testified that you had given your passport to Joel Cohen. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When did you get your passport back?
I think I gave it to him and took it back and then gave it back to him. I don't really recall.
You don't know when you got your passport back.
No. I think, as I said, I gave in and I gave it to him, and after a while I took it back, and then I think I gave it back and then got it back again. I'm not really sure what we did.
You didn't have it when you left Galveston, though, did you?
Yes, sir.
Where did you have it?
Where did I have it?
Yes, sir.
I had it when I left Galveston. When?
After Morris Black was dismembered and dumped in the bay.
I had it with me, yes, sir.
And when you left Galveston with it, where did you stash it?
Stash it?
Yes, sir.
Everything that was in Galveston, I put into the Honda and drove it to New Orleans.
You left your passport in New Orleans, didn't you?
Well, I left everything that was here just about in New Orleans until I left New Orleans.
And at the time you were on the run, Mr. Durst, this was shortly after the 9/11 tragedy, correct?
Well, I get confused going to New Orleans and coming back to Galveston and going back to New Orleans. No. When are we talking about, please?
Well, any time that you were on the run from this case. So we will just start with October 1st through November 30th of 2001. That was immediately after the 9/11 tragedy, correct?
If you want to call it that, yes.
And the security in the airports at that time were at levels never seen in this country ever before, correct?
That's what the television told me.
And that's why you couldn't go to the airport and get on a plane with your passport and fly to Peru or Belize or Venezuela or wherever else you wanted to go, because you knew you had 2 warrants outstanding and the security at the airports was incredibly high.
Yes.
You found out about the investigation being reopened into Kathy's disappearance, correct?
Yes.
And your very first reaction was to throw up?
Yes, sir.
And your second reaction was to get married to Deborah Cheriton?
It wasn't my second reaction. It took a while. Yes, sir. To ask her if she wanted to marry me was the reaction I had shortly after that. Yes, sir.
Well, to get the second reaction was to put the plan in progress. Was to get married to her, correct?
I asked her if she wanted... No, wait a minute. I got it all backwards. We had that calendar up here. October 31st is when my sister called me. And the next week, I asked Debbie if she wanted to get married. Yes.
You got the license on November 3rd of 2000, correct?
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's what the record shows, then I know I got it the following week.
3 days later?
Okay.
And you were getting set up to be a fugitive at that time, correct?
No, sir. No, wait a minute. At some point, I started getting scared. I guess it wasn't until after the meeting with Joel Cohen on November the 7th. So at that point, I was not getting set up to be a fugitive.
So in November of 2002, you were getting set up to be a fugitive, correct?
November of 2002?
Excuse me, November 2000.
Certainly by the time I came down here, I was just getting set up to go into hiding.
And that's why you got married, correct?
No, sir.
It was a marriage of convenience, so you could have someone handle your money while you were on the run?
It wasn't a marriage of convenience. I had to do it with my sister's insistence upon it.
Did you ever tell anybody that the marriage to Deborah Chariton was a marriage of convenience because you needed somebody to handle your money when you were on the run?
That was a conversation I had with my sister, and I don't think the conversation went to, I need somebody to handle my money while I am on the run, as opposed to that I'm not going to be, knew I wouldn't be going back. I was going to go into hiding someplace, and I needed somebody to take care of my affairs.
This was the same month that you came to Galveston and rented an apartment as Dorothy Steiner.
Yes, sir. Not when I said that to my sister.
No.
Okay.
I'm just asking you if that was the same month that you came to Galveston and rented an apartment as Dorothy Steiner.
Yes, sir.
And that was November 15th of 2000, correct?
November 15th, yes.
And after you rented the apartment, you tried to get utilities hooked up for that apartment under the name of Dorothy Steiner, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you couldn't do that, could you?
No, sir.
And that's because they required you to have a social security number so they could do a credit check, correct?
Whatever they do, yes, they ask for a social security number. And of course, I did not have one.
And you didn't have one to give them for Dorothy Steiner, did you?
No, sir.
And that was a major flaw in the plan that you had to come to Galveston and to go into hiding.
If you want to call it a major flaw.
Would you call it a major flaw?
Well, Klaus Dillman agreed to do...
Well, Klaus Dillman agreed to do it after you fabricated the story about you would be traveling a lot and be a lot more convenient for you if he just leave it in his name and you would pay him extra rent, correct?
I told him what I said up here. I told him my sister-in-law was having difficulty getting the utilities turned on, and would you please leave it in your name?
Your stated intention was to come to Galveston, Texas, and never use the name Robert Durst again, correct?
So that I could never use the name Robert Durst again. Yes, sir.
And that was the meaning behind the letters that we were introduced, correct?
Say that again?
The letters that Mr. DeGuerin introduced, that was the meaning behind those 3 letters?
Yes, that was the meaning behind those letters.
And you didn't want anyone to connect you to Galveston, that they were looking for you, did you?
No, sir.
Impersonating a mute woman, that didn't work out for you very well, did it?
No, sir.
And that was another flaw in your plan, wasn't it?
Sure.
You testified that everywhere where you went, and this is jumping ahead a little bit, you testified everywhere you went, you thought you were being recognized as Robert Durst, murder suspect.
Well, the places where I owned property and the people who knew me as Robert Durst, if they'd seen something in the news, they would say, oh yeah, that's Robert Durst. He is over there. That's Bob Durst. I've met him. They would relate to it right away.
But in your testimony to the jury was that whether you were in California or in Dallas or New York or wherefore you went, you felt people were staring at you and recognizing you as Robert Durst, murder suspect.
Well, people in New York, where Durst is a well-known name, and the other places, it was the places where I've been going in the past, and people knew the name Robert Durst and knew me, yes.
And you testified you could go anywhere and not be that Robert Durst, correct?
I don't recall it exactly. You don't need to dig it up. I'm sure I said something like that. It seems, though, that the context of it was...
Your prior testimony was you could have moved...
Pardon me, if we could have a citation, please.
Sure, on page 103, volume 1, line 8. Your testimony was, I could have moved any place and been Bob Durst, and they wouldn't have known me as that, Bob Durst. Sure. And in March of 2001, you came back to Galveston and decided you weren't going to be able to be a woman anymore, correct?
I don't want to confirm the March 1st date as opposed to a February 28th or a March 2nd or something like that.
I didn't say March 1st. I said March of 2001.
Oh, okay.
You came back to Galveston and decided not to be a woman anymore.
It could have been late February, but yes.
You also testified that you were not going to be Robert Durst here in Galveston.
Correct.
Who were you?
Who was I gonna be?
Who were you?
Who was I?
Yes, sir.
Well, the few places where I had to give them a name, I would say I was Jim Cordes. I cannot hardly ever remember writing it, except perhaps at the library in the computer room, and I would scribble it.
And who did you tell Morse Black what? And who did you tell Morse Black you were?
Jim Cordes.
After you came back to Galveston, and I believe you said at the end of April 2001, correct? You stayed here except for two short trips out of Galveston.
May, June, July, August, September. Yes, only twice. I remember saying short.
I believe they were brief trips.
Well, brief is, I think they were longer than brief. They were at least several weeks. Yeah, okay.
And those trips were back to New York, were they not?
I think on those trips, I both went to New York and California. I'm not sure. I would have to look at my records. I know I went to New York. I just don't know how much time I spent in New York and how much in California.
Well, according to the American Express records that are in evidence, you were in New York from June 3rd to June 15th of 2001, correct?
Yes, sir.
You weren't being really conspicuous when you were in New York, were you? You weren't hiding out or trying to avoid anybody, were you?
I was not hiding out, and I was not avoiding anybody.
I mean, you were going out to eat in public.
Yes, sir.
You would take the limos around.
I would take a limo if there was a reason to take a limo.
You weren't being inconspicuous, trying to avoid the press or anything.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I wasn't trying to be conspicuous.
And then you took another trip from July 18th to New York and stayed there all the way through August 15th.
I'm here in Dallas, and I'm in New York, and New York. Here I am in New York.
Through August 15th, 2001, correct?
No, it shows I'm in Dallas on August 13th. I know it shows I'm in Dallas on August 13th.
Okay, August 15th, 2001. Service Resource New York Equipment Tool.
That's a bill they bill out monthly. I didn't go there and buy something.
At least through August 3rd, you were using a limo.
Yes, August 3rd, I was in New York using a limo.
So at least through August 3rd, you were there.
Yes, sir.
On April 29th, there's an annual membership fee for a card for James Closty, correct?
Where am I looking? Yes, sir.
That's correct.
That's correct.
There's an ABC affiliate in New York, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's Channel 7.
Yes, sir.
So you were there at least the latter part of July in New York, is that correct?
I would need some record. You are showing July 18th through August 3rd. Yes, absolutely I was there.
And also during July, we know that Morris Black, the eviction letter that was sent to Morris Black, was dated July 13th, 2001, correct?
If that's when it was dated, that's when it was dated.
Your testimony was you didn't find out about it until you got back from your trip to New York, correct?
I didn't find out about it.
About Morris's eviction.
July 13th, no. I didn't find out about it until I got back here, whenever I got back here in August.
And then while you were in New York, isn't it true you saw a television show on ABC about yourself and Kathy Durst?
There were shows about me frequently.
ABC News did a special called Vanished, the disappearance of Kathy Durst.
I saw that show. Yes, sir.
In fact, you not only saw it, you made a tape of it.
I didn't make a tape of it.
At some point, you came into possession of a tape of that show,
Yes, sir.
and you left that tape in the New Orleans apartment when you fled from there, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
ABC News, that's not a tabloid press, is it? ABC News is not a tabloid press, is it?
ABC News is tabloid. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that.
It's your testimony, Mr. Durst, and that was a nationwide television show, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it wasn't a show that just aired in New York, was it?
No.
And it wasn't a show that just aired in California, was it?
No, sir.
So Vanished, Kathy Durst's story and Bob Durst's story, is now a nationwide problem for you, isn't it?
It was a nationwide problem long before July 25th of 2001.
So in August,
America's Most Wanted did something right after the tabloid press in New York did stuff in November of 2000.
if you could just answer the question, please.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate that, sir.
Okay.
So you found out after the airing of Vanished, the disappearance of Kathy Durst, you, at some time in early or mid-August, you found out that Morris had been evicted, correct?
Well, he showed me the eviction notice.
And then on August 30th, 2001, you bought the .22 pistol, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you describe yourself, you are a gun aficionado, correct?
Excuse me?
You are a gun aficionado, correct?
I don't use that word, no, sir. I target shoot.
You have used guns for long periods of time.
Yes, sir.
You're no stranger to having guns. Guns are not new to you.
No.
In fact, Mr. Durst, do you know, do you not, that guns can only be traced through their manufacturer and serial number, and not through the purchaser? You were aware of that, weren't you?
I don't know those things, no, sir.
Well, you are aware of it now, are you not?
If you were telling me that, I'm aware of it.
So if somebody was buying a gun and gave their real name, that's not necessarily a clue that the police can use to track somebody down unless they have the murder weapon, correct?
I'm not sure what murder weapon we're talking about.
Any murder weapon in any murder case. The fact that a person purchased a gun in their own name is irrelevant unless they actually have the murder weapon to backtrack, correct?
I would say that question is way over my head.
You expected the .22 gun that you purchased to disappear into a landfill with tons of other garbage.
I thought that I'd thrown the .22 into the water with everything else that had to do with the death of Morris Black.
Then everything else that you threw into that water included saws. Did that include the saws?
Yes, sir.
Axe?
Well, yes, sir.
Knives?
Yes, sir. Did you say murder? Did you get away with that? I'm not supposed to let you say murder. He was not murdered.
I'm just asking you questions, Mr. Durst.
Yeah, I know. I know.
If you don't understand my question, please feel free to let me know, and I will repeat it for you.
If you slipped in murder, Morris Black was not murdered.
For once, I am not speaking too fast, am I? You know that since you have been around guns for a long period of time, that a .22 is quite capable of killing another person, don't you?
Yes, sir.
You also know that it's less powerful than a .38 special, don't you?
Yes, sir.
It also makes less noise than a .38 special.
Yes, sir.
It's less likely to make an exit wound than a .38 special.
Those things I don't know about.
You also testified that although not purchased at the time of the weapon that you purchased, hollow point bullets for the .22 caliber pistol, correct?
I would purchase the most expensive bullets.
And those in this case happen to be hollow point bullets?
Whatever the most expensive is, what I would buy.
You also know that from being around guns, a hollow point bullet expands faster and therefore would do more damage than a slug would do.
I had read about hollow point bullets.
And so you are familiar with that.
I am familiar with that, yes, sir.
And that the bullets in the .22 were hollow points?
The bullets in the .22 were the most expensive .22s they had for sale.
And the bullets you had for your 9mm were hollow points?
Also the most expensive bullets they had for sale.
And the bullets you had for your .38s were also hollow point bullets?
Also the most expensive bullets they had for sale.
This bow saw, green thumb cover, that was recovered out of the body part, one of the bags with Morris Black's leg, that's a fairly new saw blade cover, is it not?
I believe that was on the bow saw that was in Morris Black's apartment as opposed to being
You would agree with me, this is a new cover. Whether it came off the saw or saw blade or whatever, it's a new condition,
Yes, sir.
even though it had been in the bay with a bloody limb for 24 to 36 hours before being recovered, correct?
I would have to do the arithmetic now. Midnight, Saturday to 6 p.m., Sunday is closer to 18 hours. Am I getting something wrong here?
Well, it was recovered in.
Early Sunday morning to Sunday evening, yes?
You heard Mr. Stacacci's testimony that only one bow saw, green thumb 21-inch bow saw, had been sold in the week prior to October 1st of 2001, correct? You heard this testimony.
Say it again? I did hear his testimony.
You did?
I heard his testimony, but what exactly did you say?
He testified that only one green thumb saw blade 21-inch saw had been sold within the 7 days prior to October 1st, 2001.
Yes, sir.
That means that this saw was purchased at least Sunday before Morris was killed, correct?
I think that saw was purchased a long time before that, but yes, sir.
It's your testimony to this jury that you used tools that you recovered, that you took out of Morris Black's apartment to dismember him.
Yes, sir.
Who is Dr. Altschuler, if I'm pronouncing it right?
He is a psychiatrist who interviewed me a great number of times.
And did you also tell Dr. Altschuler, that you bought the bow saw because it's one that you used to cut wood in Vermont when you and Kathy lived up in Vermont?
I am familiar with bow saws because we used bow saws when we lived in Vermont. Yes, sir. And go on, sorry.
Do you remember telling Mr. Sistrunk that you don't remember any part of the dismemberment?
Yes, sir.
You made 5 cash withdrawals of $9,500 within 8 days of Morris being killed in your apartment, correct?
I don't know. Let me do it in my head. Yes, sir.
The first one was in September 20th, and the last one was September 28th, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you were on the run, you took those $9,500 envelopes to finance you in your escape, correct?
I took 4 or 5 of the envelopes. Don't know which. I doubt it turned out to be those envelopes, but I took 4 or 5 of the envelopes.
Well, you made 5 cash withdrawals from the 20th to the 28th, and you took 5 envelopes of $9,500 with you.
I'm not sure I took 5.
Did you ever tell anyone that you had taken 5 envelopes?
I think I've always told everybody that I took 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that.
Isn't it true that you told your wife, Deborah Cheriton, in a phone call that you had taken with you like 5 envelopes? Each envelope would have like $9,500 in it?
If I had told her that on those tapes, I told her that, but I'm not sure it was exactly 5.
But 5 is the number that you withdraw right before Morris was killed?
Yes, sir. Right before Morris died.
And you used this money to live on for 2 months, did you not?
The money that I took out of the bag, the Bank of America envelopes that I did not send back to Debbie in New York, I used to live on. Yes, sir.
And you used that money to rent multiple cars at face value, did you not?
I don't know if I rented them at face value or not, but I did, yes. To rent a car without a credit card, you have to pay for what they think the car is worth.
Where was the first car you rented?
In New Orleans.
And who did you rent that from?
Oh dear, a nice man. I think it was like L and F or something like that.
Did you have to present a driver's license?
Yes,
Did you use Morris Black's driver's license?
I did. Actually, I didn't have to present it. You are supposed to present it, but I did not have to present it.
But you identified yourself as Morris Black to the man.
Say it again?
You identified yourself as Morris Black to the man.
Yes, sir.
And if he would have asked for it, you would have given it to him.
If he had asked for it, I would have given it to him.
And how long did you rent that vehicle for?
Just a couple of days until I got to Mobile.
And did you use the car you rented in New Orleans to drive to Mobile, Alabama?
Yes, sir.
And you abandoned it there?
Yes, sir.
And the second, let me back up.
Your Honor, is this a good time?
I think one more page.
Okay.
And the second, let me back up, you went to your nephew's wedding in Houston, correct?
That's correct.
And that was checked in on the 19th of September?
The wedding was the 22nd. I checked into the Four Seasons on the 19th.
And you checked out on the 23rd?
That's correct.
And prior to going to the Four Seasons, you had packed up a majority of your apartment before you ever went to the Four Seasons, didn't you?
Almost everything I wasn't going to give to Goodwill.
And you packed your apartment even though you had no storage place to put the stuff into, correct?
At the time, correct.
So you kept it in your car?
Yes, sir.
And on September 22nd, you came down and met Zena Simmons and had her clean your apartment, correct?
Yes. I just want to back up a second. I had most of it in the car. The rest was either in the Four Seasons or in the San Luis.
All right, now I'm going to break at this point. I think it's a logical break in this transcript. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are not in session tomorrow. We're not in session on Monday. We return on Tuesday, July 13th, 9 o'clock a.m. We have another long weekend, another opportunity for you to practice not speaking to anyone about the case, to deftly avoid questions and promise you'll tell the whole story when it's all over, and of course to avoid any media accounts of any kind on the internet, print media, or broadcasts. Do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case. Look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, July 13th, 9 a.m. Department 1 is adjourned.
Nice weekend, you know? Long weekend.